How about it, folks? There are 15 movies coming to streaming and theaters in August. Here they are. First on this enormous list, Dr. Jekyll, which hits VOD this Friday on August 2nd. This is a modern reimagining of the famous Dr. Jekyll story from Robert Louis Stevenson's 1886 novella, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It stars Eddie Izzard, Lindsay Duncan, and my favorite, Scott Chambers, who you might remember from the latest Winnie the Pooh film. In this story, Dr. Jekyll, played by Eddie Izzard, made a fortune in pharmaceuticals, but a scandal forced the good doctor out of the spotlight and into the shadows. Jekyll hires an ex-con straight out of rehab named Rob as her assistant, and it soon becomes clear to Rob there are evil forces at play as his wits are tested in a game of cat and mouse with a mysterious and manipulative entity. Next up is Trap, which is hitting theaters August 2nd. Trap's written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan of all people, and it stars Josh Hartnett, who hasn't done horror in years and says outright he's not really into scary things anymore since becoming a parent. The story focuses on a man and his teenage daughter as they realize they're at the center of a dark and sinister event while they're watching a concert. Given the trailers advertise Josh plays the serial killer known as the Butcher in this film, I'm looking forward to finding out exactly what M. Night Shyamalan has in mind to keep the rest of this plot exciting. All My Friends Are Dead, or AMFAD, which is an abbreviation that confuses me given the words are all single syllables anyways, but whatever. This movie also hits VOD this Friday, August 2nd. It stars Jade Pettyjohn and Ali Famiko Whitney and Justin Derrickson and JoJo Siwa, who seems like perfect casting in a horror film as she scares the hell out of me. This story is about a group of friends who rent an Airbnb for the biggest music festival of the year. However, their weekend of partying soon takes a deadly turn when a mass killer murders them one by one according to the 7 deadly sins. And I think this one sounds promising and unique and not formulaic and predictable at all. Cuckoo hits theaters Friday, August 9th. It stars Hunter Schafer, Dan Stevens, and Jessica Henwick. It follows a teenager who moves in with her father in the German Alps, but becomes disturbed by strange occurrences as her father's boss embroils her family in a sinister plot. Cuckoo has received some very mixed reviews during its festival run. Some people think it's remarkable, and others find it confusing. And I tend to gravitate towards films like this because half the fun for me is in figuring things out. And given it's labeled a horror thriller, I'm looking forward to seeing where director Tillman Singer takes this story. Alien Romulus finally hits theaters August 16th. It stars Kaylee Spaney, Archie Renault, David Johnson, and many, many others. It follows a group of young space colonizers. Doesn't Hollywood hate colonization? While scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, they come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. This is one of the most highly anticipated films of the year. You might know writer-director Fede Alvarez from also redoing Evil Dead in 2013 and redoing Texas Chainsaw in 2022. He says he's kept all the best elements of the original first 2 films while adding a whole lot of new stuff to make it more appealing for a modern audience. That term, modern audiences, scares me more than JoJo Siwa, but I am looking forward to seeing what Alvarez manages to do with yet another of horror's most loved and well-known horror franchises. Consumed hits limited theaters and video on demand Friday, August 16th. Stars Devon Sawa, Mark Famiglietti, and Courtney Halverston. And it focuses on Jay and Beth, who are a married couple taking a camping trip to celebrate Beth being in remission from cancer for exactly 1 year. But the trip turns terrifying when they find themselves between a wild madman and his skin-stealing monster. This is the latest creature feature from the Butcher brothers. If you're unfamiliar, they are also known as Mitchell Altieri and Phil Flores. Despite this description sounding like it may have given away half of the story, the trailer has a nice cosmic horror edge to it, so I'm looking forward to what I'm hoping might end up being a scary bit of strange. Art of a Hit hits VOD on August 20th. It stars Galen Connell, Ryan Donahue, Ally McDonald, and far too many other ones for me to list here. The story follows Ryan, the lead singer of a late 90s band. Ryan's haunted by irrelevance and struggling to regain visibility as he's getting on in years. This is commonly referred to as Corey Feldman syndrome. An eccentric producer named Charlier Dupont invites the band back to his 1,000-year-old French chateau to record a comeback album, but tensions rise and tempers flare, and everyone realizes they might be up against more than just pressure to succeed. I'm totally unfamiliar with director Galen Connell's work, and this movie's listed as a mystery thriller. Doesn't sound like it'll be up my alley, but I'll find out one way or another after it hits VOD August 20th. Stream 2024, which is going to have a wonderful time ranking itself in Google searches with this name, hits limited theaters August 21st. The story follows the Keenan family as their simple weekend getaway turns into a vacation to die for as a gang of deranged killers playing a sadistic game lock down their hotel and compete for the most creative murders of the guests. This premise might sound predictable and straightforward, because it is, but I'm looking forward to this one for its cast. It features Danielle Harris, Terry Kaiser, Jeffrey Combs, Felissa Rose, Bill Moseley, Tony Todd, Daniel Roebuck, and David Howard Thornton, who is none other than Art the Clown. I have a feeling this one's going to be messy, and I couldn't be happier. Hellhole hails from the filmmaking family behind Hellbender, and it centers on an American-led fracking crew that uncovers a living French soldier frozen in time from a Napoleonic campaign. His body and mind are perfectly preserved, but he's also playing host to a parasitic monster. If you've seen Hellbender, you'll know this movie's probably going to have some originality about it. The production company, Wonder Wheel Productions, consists of Toby Poser, her husband John Adams, and their daughters Lulu and Zelda. I really enjoyed Hellbender, and I've got all the time in the world for a family who makes movies together. I'll definitely be checking this one out when it hits Shudder on August 23rd. Hostile Dimensions is a twist-filled multiverse thriller from Graham Hughes that follows two documentary filmmakers who decide to investigate the disappearance of a graffiti artist who's seemingly vanished. As they delve deeper into their research, they encounter an ominous freestanding door that leads them on a dark journey through alternate dimensions. Determined to uncover the truth, whatever it is, the pair soon realize they've stumbled across something more terrifying than they could have anticipated. This is a very low-budget film, which means nothing in terms of whether or not it'll be any good. It does combine horror and sci-fi elements, and the trailer makes it look interesting if nothing else. It hits VOD August 23rd. Strange Darling hits theaters August 23rd, and the only real spoiler-free description I can find says this movie's a cat-and-mouse thriller described as a dramatization of the last known months of a serial killer. Strange Darling features a decent-sized cast with Willa Fitzgerald, Giovanni Ribisi, Barbara Hershey, and several other reputable actors, but what's got me excited about this one is Kyle Gallner, who is featuring as yet another bad guy. If you've seen any of my reviews of his work, I cannot take him seriously in serious roles, but I also can't stop watching him. This should be good, and if it isn't, I am willing to bet it's going to at least be funny. After a few pushbacks and rewrites, the Crow remake is finally being released. It stars Bill Skarsgård, Danny Houston, and FKA Twigs. Soulmates Eric and Shelley are brutally murdered when the demons from Shelley's dark past catch up with the couple. Given the chance to save his true love by sacrificing himself, Eric sets out to seek merciless revenge on the killers, traversing both the worlds of the living and the dead to put the wrong things right. You may have heard this movie's had a disastrous run-up to its release, from story problems to production issues, but as a fan of the original Crow movie and as somebody who believes the Crow legacy should have been put to rest along with Brendan Lee, I've no interest in this one at all. But if you have, it'll hit theaters August 23rd. Place of Bones stars Heather Graham and Tom Hopper. It takes place in 1876, and it's about a mother and daughter alone on a remote ranch as they fight for survival against a gang of ruthless outlaws. This one's more of a Western thriller with horror elements, mostly down to the gore of some of the injuries from what I gather. However, early screenings have actually come back with some decent reviews, and apparently the story features an unforeseeable twist. If that's not enough to wet your whistle, who doesn't love Heather Graham? She can't act worth a darn, but man does she keep on trying. Place of Bones hits VOD August 23rd. Afraid is the latest from Blumhouse, and I used to really enjoy announcing that. The makers of Megan are now bringing us a story about the Curtis family, who's selected to test out a new home device, a digital assistant called The device learns the family's behaviors and starts anticipating their needs. She can also make sure nothing and nobody gets in the family's way. Written and directed by celebrated auteur Chris Weitz, Afraid stars John Cho, Catherine Waterston, and one of my favorites, David Dastmalchian. It has a very strong Megan vibe, but I enjoy enjoyed Megan. So let's see what's what when it hits theaters August 30th. And at the end of this gargantuan list, The Deliverance stars Andra Day, Anthony B. Jenkins, and Glenn frickin' Close, if you can remember who she was. This story follows a family living in Indiana who discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince the family and the rest of the neighborhood their house is a portal to hell. If you're like me and you enjoy watching real-life documentaries about scary things as well as films, you might recognize this story as it's based on the true-life events of LaToya Ammons and her family in Gary, Indiana. And if you've not heard of the true-life story, the plot summary and the trailer make it look pretty frickin' good. It comes to Netflix August 30th. And there you have it, folks. All 15 movies coming out in August. As I mentioned, I'll be watching almost all of these movies, but I am most looking forward to Cuckoo, Romulus, and Dr. Jekyll, because I plan on tearing it apart. If you're looking forward to any of these in particular, let me know about it down in the comments. Otherwise, I will have reviews of at least some of these coming up in the next couple of weeks. As always, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, folks.